Hi guys, it's Chris with City Girl Homestead, and this is going to be my, I'm not sure what I'm going to name it, Faith Over Fear, and Tried and True, maybe. That's what I'll do. So, I don't want to do the normal, like, stock this up, stock that up, and everybody makes you so fearful. You don't have enough of this, you don't have enough of that. You know, listen, I've talked to a few people, and I gotta fix my camera. We can stock and stock and stock and stock. And actually, if it gets really, really bad, it doesn't matter how much we stock. Eventually, it'll all run out, you know? I see so many channels that I watch, and they spread so much fear. And, you know, back during COVID when I started canning, I canned everything and I stocked everything, and my basement became full. I mean, full. And we are working through that stuff, and so there's stuff not stored in boxes and stuff anymore. They all have shelf space. Now, the truth of the matter is, do I think things are going to get worse? Yeah, I do. I do. And the reasoning for that is, I mean, there's wars popping up all over the place. There's less beef than there's been since 1951. A lot of the things that need fertilizer is either not being planted or less will be produced. The weather has caused a lot of big issues. And, you know, I mean, it's going to dribble down to us. And the gas prices, thankfully, are falling. That's good. I paid $4.13 this morning, which is a whole lot better than closer to $5. So, I want you to take a minute, pause my video, and I want you to go get a pencil and paper, pen and paper, whatever you want to do. Because I've been watching a lot of videos, and I got this many notes. So, you know, obviously not all of them are going to attain to us or to you or to someone else, whatever. But there may be things that actually will help you out. I went back into a lot of the things from the 50s and from Depression era and whatever. So what I want to do today is, instead of like, you need to have 50,000 cans of green beans or you're going to die. We're not going to do that. And I know somebody texted me last night or emailed me and said, well, look at the list of all these things you've done. And I said, it will not be the same thing, I can tell you. Now, this video might not be for everybody, and more people might like it. But I'm going to start out with 10 things that they say are going to double up in price. Honey, salt, white vinegar, rolled oats, canned pumpkin, water, peanut butter, canned mackerel, white rice, and canned sardines. So that's some of the things that they say are going to go up. But I can also tell you your wheat products, beef, probably pork, anything like that's probably going to go up too. And you know what? What are we going to do? Just quit eating? I mean, we have to do what we can do. Now, I've got different lists, and hopefully I didn't double anything. If we did, I apologize for that in advance. So now, there's some things that the USDA changed from back in the day, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with safety. If you could see Belle, she's like, Pounce, there's something out there. I don't know what it is. They changed a lot of things for safety, which is good. But they also did things for money. And I didn't like that. That kind of like, what? So the 5 things that I have that the USDA changed and actually helped a lot for people back in the day. Open kettle canning. They said it was unsafe in the 1980s. Zero risk to justify the budget. Now, I know a lot of people that still open kettle with their jellies and jams and stuff like that. It's basically where you're putting hot product into a hot jar and letting it seal on its own. And a lot of people will just flip them upside down so that they will seal. I don't do that. I have done it, but I don't do that on a regular basis. 2 is saltpeter. They stopped selling it in the 1990s, and they substituted it with a sodium nitrate. And actually, that's not as good for you. 3 was selling home canned goods, because people used to sell their extras back in the day, and that's how they might pay for things. Like, my mom didn't can to sell, but like, we had a farm, and any extra, we had a roadside farm, you know, market, and that's how my dad would pay taxes on the property every year. Lard rendering to be at room temperature. I did render lard once, and I used it all up, and it was beautiful. And I remember my grandma, that's basically all she used was lard. And then smokehouse curing. So if I had a chance to have a smokehouse, I'd do that, because, you know, you can do a ham and it will last like a whole year. It's crazy. We think about now, we have all these grocery stores, and we can just, you know what, if we're out of something, just run to that one. If it don't have it, whatever, you know. But back in the day, like, we just finished watching Little House on the Prairie, you had one store, unless you wanted to leave town and drive forever. And I think that we've forgotten or been programmed to forget that, you know, and that we can make things at home or make things last. All right, so then I did another list. Money tricks during the Depression time. The one I still do to some degree, and that's an envelope budget. So they would put like your rent in one, utilities, groceries, savings, blah, 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 blah. And I do that with my grandkids' money that I save up every month for their graduation. I do that with vacation. I do that with Christmas and birthday money. You know, if there's something that I'm saving up for, I do another envelope. So, you know, that might be a good thing. And when your envelope's empty, then you're done. She keeps wanting to come over here. Number 2 is paying cash. I very seldom carry cash ever. I mean, my debit card's my cash, but when it's out, and you're done spending. Number 3 is buying day-old bread. We throw away 30% of our food. If you think about that, if you could cut 30% off of your grocery bill, do you know how much money you would save? The day-old bread, if you warm it up just a little bit, they say it'll come back to complete freshness, and it'll even smell like home-baked bread in your house. Number 4 is a Christmas club. They don't do those anymore. You know, they don't do those anymore because now they have credit cards, and they made no money off the Christmas club. But I can remember being like 5 or 6 years old, and my grandma taking me up to Elma Bank in Vesterberg, and I started it with $1. And then by the end of the year, I had $52. It was the greatest thing in the world. And so now I do that, but at home. So I have budgeted out a certain amount every single month, and I put it into a bag in my safe. And at the end of the year, I have enough money to cover all my Christmas gifts, plus all the birthdays during the year. Now the extra things, like AJ's going to get something for doing so well on his spelling throughout the year, I can take it out of there and it'll be all right, but I don't. I save that for Christmas and birthday. Bartering, that's something else that people don't do anymore. If you've got a skill and somebody needs it and they've got something that you need, do it. Tom, to help with the retaining wall, he's going to help put an air conditioner in his cousin's house. So his cousin's going to come over here and help him with our retaining wall that Tom doesn't want anything to do with. Barter. It doesn't have to be big issues like that. Number 6 is growing a victory garden. As you know, my garden got cut way back. So we cannot plant as much. And my backyard, because of everybody else's trees, is not completely dark, but just say, yeah. But plant where you can. Even it's just, you know, herbs or spices or whatever it happens to be, a pot of tomatoes on your porch, whatever it happens to be. Whatever you grow at home will help from taking away from the store. You know, so not only are you helping yourself, but you're also helping someone else because it's not being taken. Clothes patching and darning. They say we spend $1,700 a year on clothes. I can tell you I don't do that. My clothes stay in the closet, whether they're summer, winter, spring, fall, whatever. They're all in the closet or in my dresser, and I don't throw them away till they're stained up or whatever, but there's something I'm going to start doing with those. And AJ actually had a rip in his jeans the other day, and I got out my sewing kit and I sewed it up. And if any of you remember, back in the 70s, we had the coolest patches. Like, we had the smiley faces and all that good stuff, peace signs. You know, and we can still find those here and there. Patch them. And you know what? Nowadays, those jeans, those kids wear them and they're like already ripped and everything anyway. Buying in bulk from co-ops. There's not a lot of co-ops around anymore, but find the ones. They used to have one in East Lansing. I'll have to check and see if they have it. And a lot of times if you go in with your friends, you have to buy bigger amounts, but you can split that up between you. There's also the big box stores that, you know, they're not quite as cool as the co-ops, but, you know, hey. This is one I missed. Layaway. What I would do, even when I made really good money, I would take the kids the day after they got out of school, and I would get them 5 pair of jeans, 5 shirts, you know, socks, underwear, shoes, and I'd put it on layaway. And by the time they were getting ready to start school, I could pull it out. Well, now they don't have that. Kind of sucks. This is something that, honestly, my son is doing a lot with his kids, with Emmy and AJ, using the library as a free university. Even the small towns like Vesterberg, where I'm from, they have where you can rent your DVDs and stuff like that. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes they're only 50 cents, whatever. You can't buy them that cheap. And you can use their internet. Like, I know a lot of the homeless go spend a ton of time in the downtown library, but they can use the internet. They can, you know, research anything. And we have one homeless guy that sits over in Lake Lansing in the highway. And most of the people that are standing on corners are like holding signs, you know, help me do this, help me do that. We all know what he's there for. But I actually, for the first time in a long time, I gave him money the other day. Because he's reading, walking back and forth reading. And it's night, and I asked him what he was reading. I don't remember, but, you know, I mean, to me, at least he's learning something, and that's better than what some of the things I see around here. Reusing everything. Here in the United States, I'm not sure what it is in the other countries, but we throw away 4.4 pounds of trash a day. You guys, that's a lot of trash. And I live not too far from the dumps, and it's ridiculous. I think we should burn it all. They do down in Jackson. I don't know why they don't do it here. Cooking from scratch. I'm trying to get more of that, but, you know, it's a thing. I mean, it's a thing you kind of have to work into and whatever. But I do agree that cooking by scratch is going to save you a lot of money. Now, will I ever go to making all my own noodles and stuff like that? Probably not. But there are things that I can do that will make it easier and do more one ingredient things. Never buy on impulse. And I agree with that. Like, I'll see something I really, really like, and it might be more expensive, and you're like, I got a credit card. But I watched on another show today that there should be a 3-day rule for something that you want to buy expensive. That, you know, you think about it, you talk about it, you work it out, see what you can do. Then at the end of 3 days, if you feel like you can afford it and you need it, whatever, then you can purchase it. Paying bills on time. Do you know that there's $12 billion a year just on late fees through the credit card companies? $12 billion. And actually, under this administration, I'm not sure how it works, but they're going to try to make it so that you can build your credit on your utility bills as well. Because a lot of people can't build their credit because they don't have good enough credit to get credit cards and whatever. So if they can get, rent on time and the utility bills and phone bills and whatever, and get that put on their credit report as a good thing, it might be good for them. Number 15, keep cash at home, hiding it somewhere. Now, I think I told you guys about a story. That house that I showed you, I told you guys that it used to be a hotel. Well, the old man that lived there, he would have us girls, this is back when you'd go up to the store and you'd get your bologna sliced or whatever you wanted. You didn't just buy it by the package. And he would have us go up and get sliced bologna or Braunschweiger or whatever it happened to be. And then he always had Skol cans. And he would put his change in that. And little did all of us know that he was cutting small holes in his wall. And he'd drop them down in the wall. He didn't use the banks. He'd go cash his Social Security check up there, but that's it. And when those people bought that house, they had a ton of money. So, you never know. And my mother-in-law, we had to go through each and every book because she would hide money in books too. My grandma did that, and honestly, she lent me $20. I didn't take it, and she put it somewhere. And even after death, we could never find that $20. I don't know what she did with it. So, hide money. I do have a safe now that we've got bolted to the floor. Put it in books, whatever it happens to be. I bet you there's a million cans out there somewhere in everybody's yard. Not 1,000,001, but you know what I mean, all over the United States and probably other countries too, that are loaded with money. The people just didn't even realize people had done that. Never know. Negotiating prices. Now, everything is negotiable. I don't care if they tell you it's not, then that's not the place you shop. Me and Tom had to get a new living room set. We had that one for 13 years or whatever, and they're not built the way they are. We went out here to a furniture store, and I said, what's the best price that you can do on this set? And she goes, everything is marked as what it is. And I said, there's no negotiation, no nothing. And she's like, no. And I told Tom, okay, let's go. And she goes, where are you going? And I said, if you're not willing to, dicker with me on the prices, this is not where I want to shop. We went down to the next store, and I know people say they don't like that store. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I bought a dresser from them now, a living room set, and I've loved it. And my kids just bought a dining room set. Oh, no, living room set from them. But I went in there. I told the guy what we were looking for. We needed a couch that sat up a little bit higher so it's not so hard for Tom to get out. Blah, 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 blah. He goes, I got the perfect thing. So we walk into the back room, and he has a sit on it. It's perfect. And I go, well, that by the time we do tax and everything else, that's going to be above my budget. And he goes, no, it's not. I will get it to below your budget. So negotiation, I walked away with less than what I'd planned on for it. And I did the same thing with Tom's car, and I got more of a trade-in, and then I actually came out $600 less than what I had planned. So negotiate if you need to. Insulating house with whatever you have. Now, back in the day, you could see where people would put wallpaper up. I always wondered why every house was wallpapered. Well, it was a form of insulation. You'd see, newspapers in the wall, or this and that and whatever. I mean, don't be using like leaves and stuff like that. That's going to bring in all kinds of stuff. But find different ways. And actually, the house on the back way that we took you guys up on Monday, This one house, somebody bought it, I think, and they've redone it, but they wrapped their entire house in plastic. And I mean, it's a big old farmhouse. It was so funny not to see the plastic on the house this year. Share housing cost. You know, we are probably one of the only countries that believe that, you know, once your kids get of age, you push them out and, you know, you live on your own and do whatever. I told my kids as long as they were going to school or working and saving their money, they could stay here as long as they needed to. That my house is always welcome for them to come back to. Well, I've even put my kids' names on my house. So, but that's for down the road when we pass away. But like our neighbors, they had 10 kids, and you know, there's kids that still live there. They're older now. We have another one up on the corner that he has 4 kids, I think, and it's a small house. And his son, his wife, and 3 kids live there too. I don't know how they fit the one family in, let alone 2. But we are one of the only nations that don't share housing. You know, if you need a roommate or something like that to make your bills more affordable, do what you got to do. Making your own cleaning products, which I did do that, and then I quit doing that. And once I use up all my cleaning products, I'm going to go back to that. Because A, it does clean better, B, it's more natural, and C, it's a whole lot cheaper. Walking around instead of driving. That's something I wished I could do, but, you know, especially if you live in the city, it's so much easier to walk around. You know, I'm going to have to break this down into more than one video probably. But anyway, walking around. And baking soda and vinegar are 2 things they say that you can save. Is it $1,200 a year, I think is what it said. Buying use. Do you know that now your secondhand stores and whatever is a $50 billion a year business? Isn't that crazy? $50 billion. And, you know, like my son, my youngest one, I am not going to cry. He started his senior year in all used clothes. All used. They had a thing over at Langsberg. They called it Langsberg Tree or something. I don't remember what it was. And they had a thing where you could fill an entire bag for, I think it was $5 or $6 or whatever. And I took Bobby up there and we got sweaters and shirts and pants and, you know, all that stuff. And what I couldn't get, we went to the store and got. But, you know, and I told him, I said later in life, I said, I am so sorry that I had to start your senior year out like that. And he goes, Mom, we got some of the coolest stuff. I was so proud of him. And when he went to a senior prom, we took him over to Salvation Army and we bought him his suit, his tie, his shoes, everything else. And Tom's mother-in-law actually helped us fit everything for him. And I think we got that entire suit ensemble for $14 altogether. When Christopher had to go to, he was in this choir that they had to be in tux. It was a very, like, limited amount of people that can go into this program. The girls wore dresses like you couldn't believe. There were certain things we had to get from certain places, but, you know, I actually got a lot of those things from the used store and was able to have him looking sharp, just like the other kids. So buying used is a good thing. Avoiding debt like a disease. They say that the average family in the United States is $17,000 in debt, and maybe even more. Saving before spending. What they would do back in the day is they'd actually put an envelope and they would put, like, whatever their plan was to save. They say pay yourself first. And, you know, even if you did 52 cents a week, or 50 cents a week for 52 weeks, think about that. Back then, 50 cents was a lot of money, but you know what I'm saying. And, you know, that way you have a savings. Even if it's only $1 a week that you can afford, You know, if it's that tight, that's still $52. That's half of a week of groceries nowadays, you know. Well, not for big families, but you know what I'm saying. Keeping a price that, and I like this one, keeping a price book of where things are. Now, you know where the good meat's at, where the not so good. You know where you can save money on this and that and where it's at. And I mean, I keep it in my mind, but you know, if you want to, keep it in a notebook like that, because you know what? That is such a great idea. Because then you know, hey, I can get this, this, and this over here. And this, this, and this over here. And if you live in the city, believe me, everything's not so spread out. Now, people live out in the country, you guys are kind of stuck with one store. That's how that works. And this one, I agree with 110%. 1,000,000%. Teaching your kids about money. And that's something that I have taught my kids since day one. And when I became a single mom, they learned it even more. I taught them how to, you know, write out checks. My mom's like, you gave them your debit card number? And I'm like, yes, I did. And I taught them how to budget and whatever. And I'm going to tell you, even during the rough times, I've had to help a very little. Like, I had to help my oldest one after his divorce for just, it wasn't much money at all. But these kids, they do good, even with little. So if you teach them young, they're going to learn young, and they're going to maintain, and they're not going to go out and do frivolous, crazy, stupid things with their money. At least you hope not. But anyway, you got to have fun sometimes. So I still have these whole list here. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll end this video for today because it's almost 30 minutes. And then I'll do 1 or 2 more. And hopefully you like the series. And hopefully at the end of this, you won't have that fear. I promise you, if you believe in God, fear is the last thing he wants you to do. Put your trust in him. Know that somehow it'll get through. I didn't say not to do anything. I don't think even with God as powerful as he is, he expects us to do something. You know, even as a kid, you teach your kids how to do this, this, and this. And then you expect them to do this, this, and this. And I think that as human beings, even if we believe in God, if we don't help ourselves, why should he jump in there and kick butt and take names for us? We have to be willing to do for ourselves. Even if it's just a little thing like, you know, hiding money this week, doing whatever it is. You do your part and he'll pick up. You know, I've been almost homeless, well, kind of homeless, and without groceries and everything else before. And, you know, there's always been something that came through. And I think that if we do steps, like with looking up the things from the 50s and looking up things from, you know, back when it was really, really bad, sometimes we just need to learn from what they did. Because obviously, the recession, depression, all that, they survived it. Do you know how I know that? Because you're here. Might have been tight on them, but you still are here. You know, and I think that honestly, I've watched so many of these videos that, you know, you might have been dirt poor, but you know, a lot of the kids didn't know that. Their houses was filled with love. They had clothes. They might not have had shoes. It was rough. But most above all, they had a house full of love. And they made it. They survived. And if they can do it, we can do it. I think we've been programmed to make everything so much easier nowadays. And it's really, really sad, to be honest. If I went back to my days when I first got out on my own and I got that tight, we'd be so good. So even I need to get back to some of those things. And listen, you guys, we got it, okay? If you lose your job, it's going to take time to get a job. So you might have to look up and do other things to make up the difference. Just like I still haven't found really anything to make up the difference for my income, but I will. If you need to add to your house, you know what I mean? Whatever it is to survive. I don't want to live in this neighborhood forever. I mean, I love if I had to live anywhere else in Lansing, I wouldn't live here. But I don't want to live in the city the rest of my life, you know? But if I have to, it's a 900 square foot house on a 30 by 80 lot or whatever it is. I'll live here the rest of my life before I go into debt, into something that I cannot afford, and not be able to enjoy the rest of my life. No, I'm not doing it. So anyways, I hope you like this first edition, and then I don't know if it'll be another video or two. I don't know. I got quite a bit of notes. But I want you to don't be fearful. Be hopeful. Remember to love one another. And this is a time to get to know your neighbors and know that sometimes we just can't do everything by ourselves. This is when the community needs to come together. Your stockpile is your stockpile. But if you've got a close neighbor like I do, all my neighbors are close, and they came over and said, you know, Chris, I really, really, really could use a can of peas if you got it. I'm really, really going to give it to them. Now, if they took advantage of that, we're going to have to talk about it. But, you know, people can pool in together. Like, what was that? The story about stone soup? I seen that on Little House on the Prairie. Well, the guy goes, the soup will be a little bit better if I had some, you know, carrots. Well, I think I have some. And if we had some potatoes and celery and all this other stuff, and then before you knew it, that stone soup was a hearty soup that fed everybody. And that's something that we've forgotten, and we need to get back. We need to get that sense of community, the one that if something happens, everybody jumps in and they help. You know, like next door needed to be painted, and at the time they didn't have it. So I went in half on the paint. The guy across the street, they're not there anymore, he painted it. We got in there and got it done for her. You know what I mean? As neighbors, I don't even consider them neighbors anymore. They're my family. But get community. Talk to people. Learn to know what they need, what you need, and everything else. So, no fear. No panic buying. Set a budget if you want to start stocking up your pantry. Go through and actually see what you will eat, use, you know, that you like. Don't buy a bunch of stuff that you're not going to like or not going to eat. I did that in the beginning, ended up giving it away because I knew I wasn't going to eat it. So anyways, I'm not sure if it'll be 1 or 2 more videos, but thanks for coming along. I hope this is, make sure you put comments below if you like this. I just want to show us there's ways to make things work without fear. Ways to make things work without spending a bunch of money, you know, still stock up your pantry. But you know what I'm saying? That we can do things that make us feel more comfortable. Remember, you're loved. We need you, we want you, and we care about you. You guys have a blessed day. Be a blessing, and I'll see you at supper.